In a grand mansion filled with laughter, music, and glittering gowns, a billionaire suddenly collapsed on the cold marble floor. His chest heaved, his face turned pale, and the room froze in terror. His so-called friends, men and women dressed in diamonds and suits worth fortunes, screamed and gasped but did not move an inch. They clutched their glasses, too afraid to stain their clothes, too selfish to risk their comfort. And in that moment of chaos, it was not a rich guest or a powerful partner who stepped forward, but a poor maid, ignored, insulted, and humiliated by the very same people who rushed to his side. That night, the world would learn that true wealth is not measured by money but by the courage of a human heart. Her name was Amara. She was only 19 years old, thin and fragile, but her spirit carried the strength of 1,000 storms. Every morning, long before the sun rose, she tied her worn-out headscarf and walked for miles to reach the mansion of Mr. Desmond, one of the wealthiest men in the city. To the outside world, his mansion was a palace of dreams. Chandeliers that sparkled like stars, staircases carved from marble, and cars lined up like jewels in a crown. But for Amara, it was a cage where every breath carried humiliation. The other servants looked down on her because her shoes were torn. Guests sneered at her because she came from the slums. Even Mr. Desmond himself treated her as invisible, as though she was less than human. Yet Amara endured. She swallowed every insult, every cruel word, because she had a reason. She worked for her younger brother, who lay sick in a small hospital bed, waiting for money that she did not have, waiting for medicine she could not afford. Every coin she earned, every tear she shed in silence, was for him. Mr. Desmond was a man known for his arrogance. Tall, handsome, powerful, his presence alone demanded silence. One evening, during a dinner filled with dignitaries and politicians, Amara made the mistake of spilling a little water on his suit. The hall went quiet. Mr. Desmond turned, his face twisted with rage, and thundered, "Do you know how much this suit costs? More than your life." The room erupted in cruel laughter. Amara's eyes burned with tears, but she kept her head bowed and whispered, "I'm sorry, sir." Her heart shattered, but her silence was her survival. And then came the night that changed everything. The mansion was alive with music, crystal glasses clinking, and laughter echoing through the golden halls. Mr. Desmond had thrown another grand party, inviting the elite of society. Amara moved quietly, serving drinks, her presence barely acknowledged, until suddenly the music stopped. Gasps filled the air. Mr. Desmond clutched his chest. His face drained of color and fell at the foot of the staircase. The hall erupted in panic, but not one person moved to help him. They looked at each other, paralyzed, afraid of responsibility, afraid of ruining their appearance. The billionaire lay dying, and his world of wealth stood useless around him. But Amara did not think twice. She dropped the tray she was carrying and pushed her way through the crowd. She knelt beside the man who had insulted her countless times, pressed her ear to his chest, and realized with horror, no breath, no heartbeat. Her mind raced back to the nights she sat by her sick brother's bed, studying old medical books. She remembered the pages on CPR, the steps she had practiced on a pillow. And now, with trembling hands and a racing heart, she placed her palms on his chest. 1, 2, 3, she counted, pressing down with all her strength. The guests gasped in shock, horrified that a maid was touching the billionaire, but Amara kept going. She tilted his head back, breathed air into his lungs, and pressed again. Sweat poured down her face, her arms shook with exhaustion, but she refused to stop. Then, suddenly a miracle. Mr. Desmond coughed, his chest rose, and his eyes flickered open. The hall went silent. The billionaire was alive because of the maid. The doctors arrived and confirmed the truth. Without Amara's quick action, Mr. Desmond would have died. The man who once called her worthless now stared at her in disbelief, unable to comprehend that his life had been saved by the very girl he had humiliated. That night, Amara returned to her small servant's room, her hands trembling, her heart pounding. She thought it was over, that she would fade back into the shadows. But for Mr. Desmond, the story had just begun. In the days that followed, he could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face, the determination in her eyes, the courage in her trembling hands. For the first time in his life, shame crept into his heart. He ordered his secretary to investigate her life. And when the truth was revealed, Mr. Desmond sat in silence. He learned about her sick brother, the unpaid hospital bills, the miles she walked every morning in torn shoes. He learned of her sacrifices, her pain, and her strength. A billionaire with everything had been saved by a girl who had nothing. 1 week later, Mr. Desmond hosted another gathering in his mansion. The hall was once again filled with the city's elite. But this time, his voice was not cold or arrogant. Carried something new, humility. He stood before the crowd and said, "Last week, I collapsed in this very hall. I was dying, and none of you moved to help me. None of you except one. A maid whom you all mocked. A girl I insulted. Her name is Amara, and she is the reason I stand alive today." Gasps filled the room as all eyes turned to her. Amara trembled, her heart pounding, fearing another humiliation. But instead, Mr. Desmond continued, "From this day forward, she is no longer just a maid. She is my savior, and I will make sure the world knows her name." In front of everyone, he announced that he would pay for her brother's full treatment and sponsor her education. Tears filled Amara's eyes. For the first time, she was not invisible. She was not mocked. She was seen. Years passed. Amara's brother recovered, healthy and smiling again. And Amara herself, the girl who once scrubbed floors and endured humiliation, graduated as a doctor. On her graduation day, Mr. Desmond sat in the front row, tears streaming down his face. When she walked across the stage in her white coat, he stood and applauded louder than anyone. Reporters rushed to him, asking why he was so proud. And with a trembling voice, he replied, "Because when the world turned its back on me, she saved me. She taught me that true wealth is not measured by gold or diamonds, but by the heart that dares to love and save." And so the poor maid became a healer. The billionaire became a humble man. And the world learned a timeless truth. Respect everyone. For the hands you insult today may be the very hands that save your life tomorrow.